On a continent where two empires struggled to live together, were at war, the capital, Rifenheim of the Antares Empire, was being destroyed by the enemy. 2 million troops of the enemy were defeated, and the heart of the great demonic palace was invaded by the hero's party. No more of your evil deeds. It's time for you to return to the dark. You evil king, said the hero. The demon king Riffenhart looks at the hero's party unconcerned while they continuously threaten him. As they talked, the demon king thought to himself how he never raised demons, but just taught them tactics on how to deal with the humans who had suppressed them for generations. Asking about his 4 generals who were called the 4 kings, he was told how each was defeated and killed in battle. As he remembers them each by their nature, he grew in anger while shedding tears as he was being told. The hero gets ready to battle the Demon King with his party as so. The Demon King, who is a mage, released his powers as the heroes launched at him. A fierce battle started even as the Demon King remembered his past and how all of this ended up happening. He blows the hero and his party away with a burst of his power, and only the Martial King Teslon was left standing as they traded blows for a while. The Martial King Teslon was finally able to land a critical hit to the Demon King's head, almost killing him. The Demon King, being at his wit's end, almost gave up, giving Teslon the chance to go in for the killing blow. But the Demon King remembers how he struggled to build his empire. He uses his trump card to go back to the past. He opens his eyes thinking if he succeeded or not, but also confused about his whereabouts. He is confused as he says, "How old am I supposed to be right now?" Extremely confused as he doesn't remember the body he is in and his environment. He remembers how he looked like in his original body and asks himself a lot of questions, trying to figure out what happened. He finds his new body familiar and figures out whose body he is in. As he is still in shock, a deep voice from an unknown person calls out his name while asking why he isn't awake. We then see the unknown person enter his room. The Demon King, Reinhardt, trying to understand the situation, figures out who the person in front of him is. Dragged out by the former Martial King, Riffenhardt's teacher, Gerald Crom Protes. Riffenhardt is tied up tightly to a tree and is about to begin training. While pleading for help, Gerald covers Riffenhardt's mouth to prevent him from talking and starts his training. He is beaten up for hours while trying to scream for help and beg Gerald to let him go. His past life flashes before his eyes, and Gerald thinks why Riffenhardt seems different today, but reassures himself that beating him up will solve it. After countless beating, Riffenhardt was untied and told training for today is over. He thanks Gerald. He is then placed in a pool with medicinal herbs to heal. From his training, he finds out how effective it is and how Riffenhardt of the past was strong due to the harsh training method. He understands now where in the past he is and starts to think about his old body and what soul resides in it in the present time. Large chunks of meat were given to Riffenhardt for dinner to replenish his energy. Training such as mountain climbing, one-finger push-ups, and sit-ups on a tree branch rooted onto the mountain. He was exhausted and depressed, even as he thought of running away. He also thinks of how he would also escape if he was found out. Even as he was trying to escape, he was caught by his Gerald. He tries to reveal the truth, but because of the old Tersons, many attempt to escape from his teacher, Gerald did not believe him. Riffenhardt didn't give up and tried so many times to escape each day, but was caught every time. Damn, this guy has it hard. After many efforts, he gave up on escaping and trained as his master's lovely disciple. 2 years passed, and Riffenhardt became an aura user under 20 years of age. An aura user is considered to be the strongest level a warrior, mage, or martial artist can attain. Reinhardt, who was now in Tersen's body, was shocked at Tersen's talent and potential, but unfortunately for him, a much more gruesome training was about to begin, in which Tersen would be beaten almost half to death. After honing the unique skill named Calamity Form taught by his master Gerald, he could split a waterfall current in two. His master was at level 8 of 9 and was the only one to attain that level after his predecessor. Tesron was trying to reach level 4 before he could leave, but he was also secretly practicing magic from his previous life and was worried because he wasn't as good as he was before he regressed. He noticed the presence of someone, but it wasn't a human presence. He called the person out, and it was an orc. The orc asked to pretend as if he did not see him, otherwise it would kill him. He suspected the orc of running away from the arena, so he asked the young orc, "Is some chasing you?" But the orc was surprised by how he was able to speak his language. Reincarnates said he had a faithful encounter. As they continued to converse, Reincarnates found out he was being chased and gave him a place to hide with the help of his magical abilities. The orc was shocked with how Reincarnates knew magic with a bulked-up body and just went on to hide whilst calling Reincarnates his savior. A bunch of people appeared right after the young orc hid. They questioned Reincarnates if he had seen an orc around there. They tried to get information about its whereabouts by lying to him, but he said, "Not a chance." The orc's footsteps are seen, and an argument starts. The group wanted to go into the mountain, but Reincarnates refused them. Reincarnates gets irritated. He pulls out a club out of nowhere and starts to hit them like babies. Whilst hitting them, he enjoys himself being strong and being the one giving them beating this time around. He is hit with a sword while he enjoys himself. To his own astonishment, the sword crumbles. Only the leader was left standing, but he didn't like that, and with a smirk, hits him continuously while the others are on the floor half dead. He tells them to get lost and calls out the orc while thinking if he should get his own disciple to beat up, train, so he enjoys it just like his master does. The orc comes out and bids him goodbye while hoping to meet him in the future. The orc promises to serve only him. They exchange names, and he is shocked by his name as he was his first general in his old life, and Reincarnates tells him his true name. He tells him where to go, so he finds safety and says, "Seems like fate has taken a turn." A year passed by is the encounter with his orc friend from his past, Tatid. Gerald was sparring with Reincarnates. At the end, he praised his disciple for his good display of the techniques he taught him. They started to discuss how Reincarnates tried to escape each chance he got until he stopped and focused on training. Gerald said, 10 years have passed. Since I started to teach you, however, why are you so Samuel? But Reincarnates taught he was already too tall because he is over 190 cm. But in Gerald's martial gym clan, all the previous martial kings were over 2 meters tall. Damn, that's tall. Gerald leans over him like a giant looking down on an ant and asks, "Are you consistently following the breathing technique I taught you?" But Reincarnates said, "I think it's a matter of constitution," and also taught to himself that Tersen was over 2.3 meters too. But Gerald did not know that the Reincarnates had already stopped using the technique because he was afraid of himself growing bigger, but Gerald, with a doubting face, just agreed to his speculation. Gerald then watched him perform the unique technique Calamity Horn, which has gotten to the 4th stage and has a lot of destructive power. Even at that, dude is turning to a monster without knowing. Gerald was happy to see his disciples' progress. Reincarnates was also happy to have gotten to this stage. Gerald then tells him it's time for him to go out and calls him by his name for the first time, Reincarnates. He tells him he is free to live the way he wants, be it an evil or a good person, and says that's the price for the training he endured. If it didn't, I would be mad myself. Gerald then told him how his master, the third Martial King, advised him before he also left after training under him, and then gave him some clothes and 30 silver coins. But surprisingly, Gerald has a mansion and is rich, so I thought I would get more, in his head gold. But Gerald said the clan has payment fee given to those who descend, and said it used to be 25 silvers, but because of inflation, it went up. I would expect gold myself, seeing how crazy the training was. He then gave him a map and told him he had left a gift there for him and should go and find it if he wanders close by the place. While Reincarnates left, he was feeling emotional, but then an aura blast shot up to the sky from the mountain, which scared Reincarnates. A loud cry from Gerald saying, "Go, my disciple, do not mourn over parting. Run with an iron resolve without looking back. You are the inheritor of the greatest teachings on earth." Reincarnates goes on his journey with the plan to grow stronger and protect his loved ones from the past.
When down the mountain, he went into a village where knights of the Altian family had come into in search of a dungeon. The knights wanted a guide, and the villagers were all old and scared to guide them. Reincarnates took the opportunity to be their guide and also take advantage to raid the dungeon without anyone knowing. On their way, they were attacked by monsters. Reincarnates looked at the skill level of everyone in the party and thought the young master of the family had good skills, along with the mage and priest. Reincarnates, who was standing there unmoved by the attack of the monsters, protected the orc potters of the party. They took their rest after the first ambush by the monsters, in which they successfully defeated them. Reincarnates took the opportunity to ask about himself from the mage, about the original Reincarnates' body and what he is up to. When they set off again, they were attacked continuously and were exhausted before they got to the dungeon. Reincarnates intentionally directed them on the path monsters were on the most due to him being annoyed by the young master of the knights, Stefan. They finally got to the dungeon. The Altian family entered the dungeon after taking their rest, and Reincarnates also prepared an excuse to be around the dungeon so he could enter after they did. Upon entering, they encountered demons who attacked them. They found it hard to deal with them. Reincarnates, on the other hand, used another entry to get into the dungeon. He changes his clothes to get ready to raid the dungeon and recalls how he had fun with Ceres, his past lover. He then thought about how brave he was to do so. As he entered a room, he heard the screams of the Altian knights being killed by the demons. He remembers that this particular dungeon is a military one and has a lot of strong monsters, and understood that they were screwed. The Altian knight's young master was faced with a fierce demon and didn't know what to do. The priest healed most of the injured knights and wanted them alive so they could protect him because he almost died. As the demons continued to kill the knights, they ran in fear for their lives. The priest casted buffs on them to make them stronger. The knights then turned and charged at the demons. As the battle went on, the mage also assisted in the fight, but the knights were gradually losing to the demons. The elf servant that helped the Altian knight's young master was injured by the demons and was almost on the verge of death. The young master of the Altian family then went in for the final blow, but the demons were unaffected, yet he still charged at them without hesitation. A powerful demon joined the attack, and the knights started to run again in fear of the demon's power. The young master tried to attack the powerful demon, but was pushed back by the demon's punch. The priest tried to attack the demon, but his attack did not have any effect. The demon then tried to attack them, but was suddenly thrown back by Reincarnates' punch. He was shocked by his power, and now understood why he almost died at Tersen's hand. He then looked at his surrounding, and then attacked the demons coming. Everyone was shocked by his power, and wanted to know who he was. The knights started to wake up after Reincarnates defeated the demons, and were shocked by the demon cores around them. The situation was explained to the young master, but he couldn't believe he was saved by a commoner. He wanted to play cool, but was disgraced by Tersen and looked down by him. He didn't want to reveal that Gerald was his master, so he lied about how he learned his skills. The knight captain found the way he spoke strange and did not understand why a commoner could speak like that. The priest Silen was amazed by the height and weight of Reinhard and asked how he got it. But Reinhard just said he ate and sleep and just got tall. Silen wanted to be tall and have strong, but because of his feminine looks and structure, he couldn't. Silen tried so hard to get muscles, but rather his divine power is what increased. He thought Reinhard looked beautiful. Reinhard thought Silen was acting strange and wanted to run away from him. He made an excuse to go and scout the area, but Silen wanted to go with him. He was stopped and questions what he would do if the party gets injured again. The young master then went with him instead. As they were going, he thought about how he was rescued by Reinhard, but he didn't
like it and wanted to kill him because Reinhard was not acting as a commoner. He thought Reinhard was just lucky and would submit to him once he sees his skills and saves him. Reinhard knocked him out and killed the demons around. He entered the treasure room and searched for an item he had in his past life, a limitless bag that can store a lot of things, and stuffed it with faith. Treasure there. The young master woke up after he came back and lied to him that he was attacked by demons. The young master thanked him and left to scout the other areas. The same thing happened again and again, even as the young master was knocked out by Reinhard. After that he would take the treasure in that area. They returned to the night group and went deeper into the dungeon. As they were walking, Silen and Reinhard talked. Even as they approached the final room of the dungeon, they saw it was guarded by a stronger demon and were about to turn back, but because the demon was holding the lost sword of the Altian family, the young master did not listen. He told the knights to charge at the demon. Reinhard thought of how foolish the knights were because he knew the demon was strong because of his past memories, and asked if they would really try to fight it, but he was just ridiculed. The priest and the mage helped them fight, but the knights were no match for the demon. Reinhard stood there thinking if he should help them or not, and also understood what kind of people the Altian family are, especially the young master Stefan, and watches how he fights the demon. They fought the demon fiercely, but it received no, and the chains that held the demon was now released. The demon then started to rampage all over the place and killed many of them. Young Master Stefan went in for an attack but was counter-attacked by the demon and was thrown at the wall. His elf servant went in to protect him, but she was also knocked away by it. The demon then attacked the whole place, leaving nothing but ash. Reinhard jumped in to save Silen even as the blast almost hit him. He then decided to join in the fight and also test out how strong he has really become, and also about which version of him is stronger, his past life as a mage or his current self as a warrior. He realizes that he is also slowly turning into a martial artist and started attacking the demon. He attacked the monster but was deflected and knocked away by its hooves and crashes into the wall, but was fine and started to attack it again. He took it as an opportunity to also refine his techniques. As he fights with the monster, everyone was amazed that he was an aura user. During the battle he was able to understand just how powerful he had become. But the boss of the dungeon was unaffected by his punches due to the dungeon supplying it with mana to heal. As battle grew tougher and tougher, Reinhard used all that he learned and was enjoying the fight. The knights were amazed at what they were seeing. Reinhard then wanted to end the battle with Calamity Horn but was afraid the whole place might collapse. He was asked to end the battle with a sword by the mage, but he told him that he could only use his body. Silen cast a buff on him which was meant to be done on metals. Reinhard was mad but had to continue the battle and killed the demon with a punch, followed by a knee then a punch. After the battle the young master Stefan was jealous and angry that he couldn't defeat the demon, so he decided to pick a fight with Reinhard but was humiliated again. They returned to the village and Reinhard departed from there. Reinhard was followed by Silen. He objected to it, but after Silen convinced him, he agreed. In a town where Ceres was being yelled on by her master, Mage, because of her eyes, Mage asked his servant to return to Ceres. Reinhard arrived in Shantan with Silen. He was going to look for Ceres. Ceres asked what they were there for. Reincarnates then told him to buy an elf. Selene was disgusted by the idea and thought of him as a pervert. They then went to find an inn. Tarek met Mage, who was also into elf slave trades. They talked about his recent slave he got, which was Ceres. He was laughed at by Tarek and he made a bet with him to see who was better at training them. In the inn, Selene was working out. Reincarnates told him to take it easy. Selene then used his healing powers, and at that moment, Reincarnates understood why he was so skinny without muscles. It was because of him healing himself right after his workout, which rather increased his divine power rather than his muscles. Reincarnates then went to an elf slave auction house with Selene to get Ceres, his past lover. A lot of elves were shown to him, but he told them he was looking for someone else. They were taken to where the elves train and given a history, but they didn't want to hear it. They arrived at where Ceres was, and when Reincarnates saw her, tears fell from his eyes. Reincarnates remembered how in the past he used to experiment with Ceres and mess things up, and Ceres then helps him clean himself up. He remembers his last days with her before he traveled back in time, and the last words he shared with his generals. Ceres told him do whatever it takes to come back and that she will be waiting for him. In the present day, Ceres was training with the other elves as Reincarnates and Selene watched. The seller gave the price of Ceres to be 300 gold coins. He then explained to them that she was cheap because she was a defective good which was returned always. Ceres was brought to Reincarnates. He told him she would be called Ceres from now onwards. He then introduced himself to her with Selene as well. Even as they left, Tarek came in search of Ceres but was told she had been bought. Tarek wanted to mock Mage by buying Ceres and then train her. He was then told she was bought by Reincarnates. Reincarnates on the other hand was shopping for clothes for Ceres. Ceres found the way Reincarnates treated her strange because she knew she was a slave. All creatures aside humans are slaves to them, and this was the norm in this world. Reincarnates then asked Ceres not to treat him as a master but a friend. She thought Reincarnates was just acting and that he is just a pervert. They went to eat in a restaurant. Reincarnates was troubled because he didn't meet Ceres as a savior this time but as a buyer, so he understood her reaction towards him. They finished eating and then left to go and buy a weapon for her. Ceres was annoyed that Reincarnates knew her main weapon, and Selene also got a dagger. As they left, the Knights of Tarek approached them and asked to talk. They told him that Tarek wanted Ceres but Reincarnates did not care. They then told him to sell her to him for whatever price and they would pay. They tried to convince him but he still refused. Tarek was mad at the Knights for returning to him without Ceres. They then decided to kidnap Ceres and tell Reincarnates that she died and offer to pay him. Reincarnates was in his room counting what was left from the gold coins he took from the dungeon. He then thought of how he would use it, to either use his past memory to invest it or just keep on carrying it. He then went to a trade union which was in rivalry with Tarek's union called Doban Union. Unfortunately they were losing a lot of business to Tarek and were almost bankrupt. He was then told that a client would like to see him and invest 1,500 gold coins, which shocked him. Reincarnates then entered and discussed how he would like to invest his money. They talked about how he would use the money and on what things he should not use the money for. He then found out the trade union was in need of money because of Tarek's union. He agreed to do business with them but warned them not to spend his money on personal things. Meanwhile, Ceres was training with Selene. She remembered her mom's words when she was a kid and also how her hometown were destroyed by humans. She was then imprisoned. Still remembering, she was taught how to fight and she was treated badly and looked down upon by her own kind. As she was done training, Selene asked her how he could do what she, like wielding a sword, but he was disappointed with the answer she gave him. As they talked, the Knights of Tarek then came and told her to follow him to her true master. As they stood there, she was told to follow them quietly and that no one will come and save them. A fight then begins as they try to capture Ceres. Celan then tries to help but was almost killed. Ceres stepped up to fight them all, but they didn't expect that the knights brought an orc warrior. Ceres then thinks to herself if she can beat him, but before she could even blink, she was attacked by him. As they continued to fight, she regrets not bringing her main weapon with her. The orc was then yelled at by the knight captain to not leave a mark on her. She then rushed at him thinking she would evade his sword but didn't. He then turned his sword away so as to not kill her. Celan then took the opportunity to attack them while Ceres protected him. They then took the chance to escape. Ceres then carried Celan and jumped into a room nearby to escape. Even as they were trying to go after her, another knight appeared and questioned them if they had failed to capture the elf again. He was then told she was stronger than they thought. He then agreed, seeing as she could even face an orc. He then went after them. With just a leap, he went into the room they entered. We see Reincarnates appear as he threatens the knights who dares to touch Ceres. Stay tuned for the next episodes. Like and subscribe for more.